a lesser syllabus point today, students, on the impact of technology. So the 2 points there are technology that assists business in expansion and e-commerce security and privacy concerns. There is a quiz at the end. So technology has absolutely enabled businesses to innovate products, processes, and services. That was a point from Unit 3. To expand their market globally and to reduce costs. So now companies like Amazon are a great example of how technology impacts all aspects, from production of products through to the distribution. So how, that you can see there's about 5 different ways that you need to learn that explain how business uses technology to assist it in its expansion overseas. The ones that come up most often are the GPS tracking systems, because that ensures more confidence for both consumer and business. Safe payment systems is another one that comes up a lot. Faster shipping, inventory control, and communication, not just with business-to-business communication, but also the opportunity to talk to customers if that is part of what is needed to ensure customer satisfaction and the maintenance of your business public image. But yeah, the overall point about technology is that it has absolutely reduced costs at the same time as making markets for products truly global in nature. So it's a tricky one because it depends how you read the point. Is it about e-commerce or is it about security and privacy in general? So I think the examiner has sort of taken it to mean both, because a lot of the points that maybe have come up aren't necessarily completely related to e-commerce. They are more just general security and privacy concerns for a business in its operation and how it secures its network, for example, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with e-commerce. It's just that people are out there looking for ways to get into business networks to use that information for malicious gain. So we know that in terms of e-commerce in particular, that customer information and details have it's in the news all the time about the concern that many people have for their personal information being recorded by a range of businesses through their either e-commerce membership or web portals. We know that there are constantly external characters out there who are always seeking to steal information for generally financial gain or some degree of exploitation. The way they do with that are continually evolving, be that through malware, through viruses inserted into a computer, through phishing on a company website for personal information, and also the use of cookies. So if you weren't aware, cookies are the way websites track your clicks and where you go with those clicks. So by allowing cookies for what websites you visit, you are effectively allowing that information to be passed on to third-party providers. That's why now you can, of course, refuse cookies when you go to particular websites, so that information does not get passed on, and in a sense or in a way, in a minimal way, limits the opportunity for third parties to use that information to further tailor what comes up in Google and in, moreover, your social media feeds in particular. So what can businesses do to prevent these concerns and to save their reputation and to save the information of customers? Well, all businesses have some sort of PayPal or generally a third-party system which provides security when payment systems or payment information is included on purchase through an e-commerce portal. You can, or businesses can also encrypt electronic communications. Businesses can also add elements like CAPTCHA or other bot detecting software into the e-commerce experience to further reduce the opportunities of phishing from bots. Yes, if businesses do not spend the money and stay up to date and invest, then it could have a significant impact on the business public image. And there are lots of cases of where the security hasn't been as best as it could, and as a result, personal information and information from the company has been stolen, which could be extorted by an actor overseas for financial gain. So a practice question from the 2023 paper, again, the word is explain, or the verb is explain, and it's the impact that it has on business operations. So that's the key when you're looking at the marking key in particular. I guess the first two sentences there are defining what the security and privacy concerns are, and then further explaining or going into detail about how businesses can help reduce the risk of security and privacy concerns through things like changing passwords, education programs, two-factor authentication, outsourcing to PayPal or another company which specializes in keeping personal information and payment details separate. That last sentence highlighted in yellow there is a really important one because it is really explaining the impact. So yes, one impact is the damage to business public image if some of these security and privacy concerns come to fruition and stuff gets leaked. But moreover, there's an increased cost to business that comes ongoing with the expense of competent security to maintain data and other really important aspects of information. So yeah, that was a really important. So again, the secret here really is to make a really good, well-rounded answer. Really think about how the question is worded and include at least one sentence which directly addresses, the true intent of the question. Okay, so I've got a quiz. So quizzes are useful for you. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, great. Or you could type it, I guess, whilst you're watching. But we'll run through 10 questions, all from Unit 3. And the idea here and the psychology behind it is that as you study through Unit 4, if you don't continually revise the content from Unit 3, it will disappear in your brain. And we want the information to be maintained because it's easier to build on and you don't have to do nearly as much work at the end of the year if you are constantly revising the content which is in there. So if you think of your brain like a tree, when you don't continue to revise the information, one of the branches on the tree snaps off. So this is why doing a little quiz yourself or in your class is a really helpful way to maintain the information which has been learned. So that wasn't supposed to come up all at once, but there's your 10 questions. So I'll give you a minute to run through those questions just by answering them on a piece of paper, and it could be in dot points. This is not an exercise in writing a very detailed response. This is more just about the knowledge that you have retained. So if you're watching, there's 10 questions for you to go through. Pause the video now, and then I'll come back to it in a minute and we'll just run through some possible answers. Okay, so question 1, describe how consumer purchasing and spending patterns drive global business development. Well, it's really by helping business understand potential gaps in the market or consumer trends, which can be exploited to give the business a competitive advantage. 2 features of the ASEAN Australia-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement: 90% reduction in tariffs on most goods traded within the free trade area. Another easy one to write is the improved movement of business people through the region. You could also say that there's improvements or reform towards freer trade in the trade in services, which would aid business in Australia in things like outsourcing. You could also say that there's been reform and improvement in the rules of origin related to where goods come from, and a simplified customs process, which throughout the region, which aids businesses in getting their goods to their customers quicker. You could say, although I don't recommend the last one, that there are protections for business investments throughout the region and legal recourse should those businesses become nationalised by a government. Next, the concept of transfer pricing is the mechanism by which multinational businesses are able to transfer profits from countries of high tax to potentially tax havens or countries which have a lower corporate and income tax rate. They do this by or through a range of reasons, but generally it's by artificially setting a price for a good or service which is traded between the home country and a subsidiary which has been set up in the country which has a lower taxation rate. That's basically it. International cooperation has been impacted by globalization. Well, generally, there's been an increase in international cooperation, evidenced by the range of free trade agreements, although Donald Trump may turn that on its head. But over the course of the last 20 to 30 years, international cooperation has increased as a result of globalization. There are a multitude of free trade agreements, be them bilateral or multilateral, which exist around the world. The number of strategic alliances which exist by both global corporations and those, only set within an individual country have increased exponentially, as has the movement of people, which is and skilled workers in particular, which has been facilitated by cooperation between governments. Two benefits of homegrown developed products. So it increases economic welfare. So it does benefit the local community through generally increased jobs, and those jobs have a flow-on effect for the overall economy through the multiplier effect if we're in economics. You could also say that the further Australia develops homegrown developed products, it increases the reputation of the brand of high quality Australian goods. You could also say that, I don't know, loosely, I guess it was in a marketing key at some point, that homegrown developed products may, or the development of those products can further stimulate innovation. A taxation incentive provided by the Australian government. You could have TradeX, you could have the duty drawback scheme, or you could have the research and development tax incentive. Those are the three correct answers. The rationale and benefits of a merger. So rationale means reasons why. Benefits means things that are gained from. So a merger, why would a business merge? Generally to increase its market share. And businesses potentially in the same industry would merge together to become a more dominant force in that industry and therefore receive greater profits as a result. Other times, mergers can happen due to skills or particular products which might wish to be acquired. Therefore, the benefit for the business is potentially improved productivity, an expansion into a new market as a result of the product which has been merged, or really economies of scale as well. One benefit of innovation is either financial gain, the expansion of global market presence, or increase market share. And a dot point about either of those would work. Cost can be a factor limiting excessive innovation because it's the cost of research and development which may limit the success. So R&D is a very expensive exercise for most businesses, and it's that cost where you are sending money to the R&D department to innovate products which may actually have an impact on the marketing budget or the operations budget or somewhere else in the business as a result. And it's that cost factor to simply develop the innovation itself, which may impede or be a limiting factor. So managing diversity is understanding that a diverse workforce can be of great benefit to a global business. The most obvious way is that when expanding overseas, if you have a diverse workforce culturally, there may be cultural understandings from that diverse workforce which can help your expansion by illustrating key cultural considerations from the new country. And the other way is that having a range of skills, abilities, talents, ages, cultures, backgrounds, genders, and other different varieties of people in a workforce actually stimulates thinking and innovation. So there you go. I hope the quiz helped. And obviously, if what you've missed out on today, you need to go back to your PowerPoints, you need to go back through your notes and fill those gaps in your knowledge.